A 7-hour-long debate in the British Parliament has culminated in a landslide approval of UK strikes on Islamic State positions in Iraq. All three major parties backing the initiative. The bombings could be unleashed any moment now. RT's Polly Boiko spelling out the key issues of the operation.
Well, the Royal Air Force mission is called Operation Shader, and it's said to already be underway, which means that we could see UK airstrikes in Iraq in the next coming hours. The UK is using 6 RAF Tornado jets. They have been stationed in Cyprus for the past several weeks. They had been carrying out surveillance missions, but they will have now been transformed into a combat role. The Ministry of Defence is said to have already identified the first targets that they intend to hit in Iraq. And all this is a dramatic escalation of Britain's role in the country since just yesterday evening, which is when British politicians voted overwhelmingly in favour of joining up to this anti-IS coalition in Iraq. The debate about whether or not to join the coalition lasted 7 hours, but this war could drag on for several years. The Prime Minister didn't shy away from admitting that. This will, of course, be Britain's third foray into Iraq in a single generation. And in terms of the politicians that did oppose the military intervention, there were only 43 of them, but they said that they fear that another Western coalition in Iraq could lead to actually recruiting more people to the cause of the Islamic State. And of course, there are deep concerns about retaliatory attacks back home.
Polly Boiko reporting. Now, according to the government, the UK has committed itself to the bombings for at least 2 to 3 years. The Royal Air Force most likely using its bases in the Persian Gulf and Cyprus. 6 jets already said to be locked and loaded, so the strikes could begin within the next few hours. And how many sorties are we thinking about here? Possibly up to 16 strikes a day. But critics are saying the UK's plan is actually flawed at its very core.
This obviously wasn't a free vote. We know it wasn't a free vote. People have been sacked for voting against the motion. There were some people before voting actually resigned their posts in the knowledge that they would otherwise be sacked for voting against the government's motion, rather than making a butchery of their conscience.
This is a matter for the nations in the Middle Eastern region, and specifically Iraq, but also some of the near neighbours. They need to figure out what their borders are, how their parliament works, how the interaction between Sunnis and Shias work. Unless we resolve those problems, Britain, America and other countries going in every 10 years or so, it's firefighting rather than addressing the root causes of the difficulties.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that the language they use, they say, oh, we may have to go into Syria because Assad has failed to defeat ISIS, right? The truth is the exact opposite. They want to go into Syria because ISIS and its allies have failed to defeat Assad. So ISIS is a useful way to enable them to get the involvement, the bombing of Syria underway that they weren't able to get parliamentary approval for this time last year.